Welcome to our premiere edition of Try Hard's Race Reports. Our Try Hard's multi-sport team, based out of Kingston, Ontario. We're a couple weeks after Clash Miami. First race for any of our members. Where we just happen to have our resident pro, Nick Cosman. So just want to do a quick little recap, Nick, of your age group accomplishments. Pretty good age group races. Been to 70.3 Worlds or two?
That's a good question. Yeah, two for sure. I did 2019 was Nice, and 2018 three. Yeah, 2018 was South Africa, and then the year before was four. The year before was Chattanooga, and then I did the inaugural when they started moving it around in Mont Tremblant, 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you did. You had some pretty good standings in those years. You won, obviously, to get to the Worlds. You won multiple age groups, and I guess you would have been at those times in your late 30 age group, the 35
35 to 39. Yeah.
Okay, it's pretty much one of the most competitive age groups going.
Yes, for sure.
So it's sort of, I'll throw one question out.
Sure.
Why go pro when you did?
Yeah.
There's sort of the aspect of, you're kind of giving up a possible chance at going to Kona, for example, as an age group. What was your thought process on that?
Yeah, so good question. I mean, so for me, I think once I got to the point where I was, winning my age group, I wouldn't say fairly easily, but like by a significant margin, then I kind of thought, okay, well, let's make a go of it. I mean, I would say late 30s, I don't think it's too late to race pro. I mean, it takes a while to get the endurance, especially for long course, to kind of be competitive at other age group or at pro. So for me, it was kind of like now or never, because I know, I'm 41 now, so I know that my time is somewhat limited. So unfortunately with COVID, it made it kind of hard to get into it because there wasn't much racing. But the other factor was, just based on training. I mean, I'm still getting faster. I'm still improving. So those are all good signs. For me, it was, the problem is I don't, pro racing is so different. You don't know where you fit in until you race. So for me, it was kind of, a little bit of let's just see where this goes and
see what you can do.
See what you can do. And I mean, as long as, for me, the goal is to just feel like I'm in the mix a little bit. I certainly don't, expect that I'm going to contend in any of these races, but it's a lot of fun because you're racing against the top guys in the world, and and then the other consideration too is that you can race as much as you want, right? And sort of you can pick your races sort of last minute, depending on how it fits into your lifestyle. Whereas for age group, as you guys know, I mean, you gotta plan a year in advance or more to make sure you get a spot, right? So yeah.
So you've already we haven't done any of these race reports for you yet, but you've already had 4 starts, I guess. Ironman Lake Placid, 70.3 Maine, Ironman Chat, and then just 2 weeks ago, Clash Miami.
Right.
Fairly successful results, I would think, from that. Miami, I'm assuming, is probably got to be the highlight of the four results.
Yeah, I would say that's probably accurate. I mean, the depth of the field in Miami was definitely the best field that I've raced against. And given the conditions, given the field, certainly, if you had asked me if I would have finished 26th or 27th out of 50, I would have been pretty stoked with that. So yeah, to kind of feel like I was, in the mix. My goal for that race was to, I've been working on the swim, and I wanted to come out with a pack in the swim, and I did that. And now, that being said, I mean, all of these races I pick apart, and I still think I have a lot of room for improvement. So For example, Ironman Chattanooga the last 10K I had a foot injury and really couldn't do anything. So all the results have been steadily improving, and I see a lot of more potential, which is kind of what fuels the fire for me. Knowing that I haven't put together that perfect race.
That's good.
So that's
as we get going through doing more of these, we'll go back and cover a lot of the training that we do, because fortunately for our team, Nick comes out and something that Lionel and Sam and whatever don't have to put up with. They don't have to put up with a bunch of age group guys wanting to beat up on them all the time. So we have a lot of fun training with Nick here too.
Yeah.
So let's get to the nitty gritty. Clash Miami.
Yes. Yeah.
So you kind of talked about what your goal was for that already. Start off with that swim. Man, we were watching that on there, and it, as I've said, your MMA swimming skills looked like they came in handy for that.
Yeah, that was. I would say that was the most aggressive swim start I've done to date, like for pro. I mean, it reminded me of the mass starts of the age group racing that we used to do, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, where it was just pure chaos. So yeah, my goal there, it was a clockwise swim, so I breathed to the right, so I wanted to, although it was kind of a longer shot to the first buoy, I figured I'm going to set up on the left side just so I can kind of know where everybody is. It got out pretty good. To the first turn buoy was, probably 150 meters, and was right in the middle of it, and it was just like a, washing machine of guys swimming over each other. I saw Sam Longut stood completely up. He was completely vertical at one point. It was all good, really. I was right, everything kind of got strung out. Because I had the swim premium for that fastest first lap, I knew it was going to be, the pace was going to be like insane, right? So I kind of prepared myself to kind of go hard, but not like kind of, a metered effort, so as to not blow up. So I was happy. Unfortunately, I think it was like the final turn buoy kind of coming along the home stretch, I kind of got pinched out. So one guy from the right swam over top of me, and then another guy from the left, and I got kind of pinched out the back. And so I was either going to swim over top of those guys, which is what I probably should have done, or I just kind of slowed down and went around. And when I did that, I totally lost the feet I was on. So again, just little things. I think it wasn't indicative of my swim fitness, because I felt like the swim was pretty easy. But I was happy to be in a group, right? So I was in a group of like 6 or 7 guys, so I knew I was in a good spot. But like that next group ended up, after the first lap was 30 seconds ahead, second lap was over a minute ahead of us. I'm pretty confident I could have made that group if I had made some better tactical decisions. And so that's that's first open water swim of the season.
But overall,
I was
coming out where you did.
Yep, came out with some guys.
Times we can't really look at, because it's all about places.
But the guys I came out with, like Taylor Reed, I'm sure he probably is not super happy with his swim, but I came out with, Taylor, I was 3 minutes down to him barrelman, just not that long ago. So
absolutely,
I know I'm making progress there, so that's good.
So come out of the water at a fairly good spot, and then we get to the bike, which I guess before we even get to the bike, there was bike issues on.
Yes.
We'll say parts issue on.
Yes.
The Batmobile. So it wasn't. I'll let you kind of give a quick explanation.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I knew there was going to have to be some maintenance work done on my bike. And unfortunately with COVID, there's just a shortage of parts and things like that. And so we weren't able to get things done in time, but we thought we were going to be good. But then there was the bearings and the stem had to be replaced. So that was the issue there. So unfortunately I didn't get to take the race bike down, which was a big bummer, obviously. Like that bike is fast. So had to resort to, the 10-year-old Aragon, trusty Aragon. So we set it up with a good disc wheel, and, it's still pretty quick, but obviously not. There's, I would say over the 60K, you might have left 3-4 minutes out there. So that was a bit demoralizing, but it is what it is. I tried to just put that out of my mind and go race as hard as I could with what I had.
And how So it was 17 laps of the
17 laps of the
17 laps.
track, yeah.
Now, how did you find that monotonous at all? Going around the
No.
laps, or was it just put your head down and go?
No, I thought it was like the setup going through the road course it kept you on your toes because there's so many little turns and it was quite technical. I mean, I'm very comfortable on a technical course and I found that I was making up quite a bit of time on some of these guys, like coming just in the cornering and,
Awesome.
and making sure you pedal right to the apex and keep the speed up. And so for me, I think it helped. But I will say, like with the heat and everything, I did not feel good in that first 20 minutes. Like my heart rate was through the roof. Like it was, I didn't have a heart rate monitor on, but it was like, it felt like I was doing a 20-kilometer all-out time trial. It was like insane.
So for anybody that hasn't watched the race, go on Clash's Facebook page and watch reports of the track temperature being easily 105, 110 degrees. Most likely is what we were hearing.
It's quite hot.
In the ladies' races, there was 6 DNFs due to heat, I think is what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, we were all watching as we were warming up because the men's race was after the women's race, so we were warming up in the comforts of the air-conditioned pro lounge, and they were televising the women's race. And I mean, when we saw Sarah crash on the bike, we were just like, whoa! Like I think was partly heat and just lack of attention, but then we just saw like the women were just dropping like flies, right? And obviously it was the heat was getting to them, and I mean. It was hot out, there's no doubt about it, but I think the women had it a little harder than we did because there was no cloud cover, nothing for them, and it was just on that track. I mean, it's kind of like probably like very similar to Kona where you're going through the lava fields and the black, lava just sort of radiates that heat. It makes you feel like you're in a sauna.
Yeah, they were talking, as I was watching, they were talking about that, and they said the temperatures were sort of Kona-esque going through the energy lab. So that was very, very neat to listen to them talk about it. So, so overall then, the fact that you had not the bike that obviously that you wanted, but overall happy somewhat with the bike then?
Yeah, it's hard for me to say for sure because the other complicating issues, we had the power meter crapped out on me, so I didn't have any power data, which is probably a blessing because I think I had to go off feel more than anything, and trying to chase a number would have been just a bad idea that day. But I would say, I think I averaged like 41.7 kilometers an hour. I mean, it's nothing. I'm sure I can do a lot faster than that. But effort-wise, I felt like when I got to the second half of the bike, I was able to kind of get into the rhythm a bit more, push a little harder, and sort of I was feeling it muscularly. So I was able to push hard enough that I could feel like the effort was there. Whereas in the first half, and whether it was just the swim, the heat, probably a combination of both, and we always do, you do your swim, you do your bike, but in training you don't often do the swim to bike transition, and that when you come out of the water and your heart rate's jacked, and then you got to get on the bike and start getting it going, it can take a little bit to settle into it. So overall, I mean, I think my time was 1:30 or something like that, and certainly didn't expect to go that slow, but everybody was sort of slower.
Everybody's slow.
So again, I was, I knew I was in a decent position. I passed some guys, so I knew everybody was kind of suffering in the second half, and I just sort of mentally said to myself, like, you're just gonna have to go on effort and sort of dial it back a little bit, because with the preems and these guys, they're obviously going to make money, and I have the luxury of not having to make money off this. Yeah. So for me, I'm trying to get the best result I can and try to get some points. So I have the luxury of kind of pacing myself a little bit better. So that was, I came off the bike feeling pretty good. Overall.
So you felt better coming off the bike than you did coming from swim to swim to bike.
For sure, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, and then we had the luxury of I guess not the luxury for you, but by the time you got out to the run, the leaders, Sam was coming out, and you got a little bit of nice TV time with Sam there. Yeah. It was nice to see him, some of the top guys in the world, sort of putting it out to the guys like yourself, and giving it with a fist pump. And then shortly right after that little fist bump, the camera's still on you, and we got to see the
Yeah.
Nick that we know and love around here for our run training that looked like he was in a world of hurt on that
Yeah,
one.
yeah, that was it was really, really hard, I would say. I mean, I told myself, just basically gonna have to jog it in the first half. And I thought I did a good job of and I was passing guys. I mean, like, I was running 340, 345s, which, in pro racing is like, you're gonna get blown by most of the time. But I was passing guys. So
Yeah.
I'm like, there were guys that were cramping up, like, off the bike within the first couple of laps. So I knew it was going to be a race of attrition to a certain degree. And I mean, if you look at the times, I mean, even Ben Canute ran like marginally faster than me. Like, I was
Sure.
102, he was 1 hour. So, and the top run split was like 55 minutes, Jason West too. I mean, these guys can run so fast. So the heat was definitely an issue for everybody. And even I talked to Sam after the race, and he was in damage control is what he said. He just said, he knew that, like, he figures it was probably 30 seconds a mile slower than what he intended to
Nobody
run.
was going after personal best.
Nobody's going after
the
personal
heat-
best. So
the heat was really played a big factor in the race.
yeah, I mean, like, and it honestly felt like the back half of an Ironman is what it felt like, because it was like aid station to aid station is what it felt like. You were just like dying to get to the next aid station to get a drink of something because it was so hot. And I mean, the first 2 or 3 laps, I ran through every aid station, and then I think on lap 4, and I think it was 7 laps total, I was like, okay, I need to walk to get enough nutrition in so that I'm gonna be able to finish this, because, like, I just knew that, like, cramping is gonna be an issue, overheating is gonna be an issue. So I took an extra 10 seconds to drink and get the Coke, get the Gatorade, get everything down. And I mean, it's really hard to walk on such a short race, but there was a lot of guys doing it.
And
so it made
personally,
sense,
that's what I really like about these clash races.
Yeah.
I got to go down and do the Daytona race in December, so it wasn't as hot as what you were dealing with, but I know what you're talking about. There is nowhere to hide. There is no shade unless it's in the clouds.
Yeah.
And the track temperatures are really, really hot.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was great for us all back here in Kingston watching you. Like, we seen you come across, I guess, in 26, 27 spot.
Yeah.
Like, that's got to be a happy spot, because that was a pretty strong field as well.
That was a very strong field. Yeah. So I mean, I was happy. I mean, sort of the overarching goal was to try to get some PTO points. So the way PTO works is, that you have your sort of what the ideal time would be. So they call it the AIT. So that's what, like, a top triathlete in the world would get, and they adjust it based on conditions. So based on the heat, humidity, based on a lot of different things. And then everybody's ranked from there. So say, for example, Sam was 2:38 or whatever he was. The AIT time was a little bit faster than that. So say it was 2:36. And then everybody gets points based on that, right? So I was down, I got 19 points, which is my first race that I've scored points. So I got to be happy with that. Overall, it's just, trying to do the little things better. I mean, I think for me, the next race coming up is, coming up pretty quick here with Oceanside. It's going to be cooler conditions, going to be a wetsuit swim, saltwater swim. All those things are good for me. So, having cooler conditions, we're going to be able to push ourselves. And so it's going to be, I think, a better test for me in terms of where I stand, where my fitness is. Also picked up a new bike while I was down in Miami. So, so that's good, because my current bike is still in the shop and waiting parts. So I'm now going to be riding a Trek SLR 7. So I'm pretty excited about that. So yeah, I mean, all signs are. I know what I can do. I just have been not able. It's really hard, as we all know, to put together the perfect race. I mean, the swim, you got to put the bike together, solid bike, and then try to run well off the bike. There's a lot of, especially longer distance, a lot of things gotta, nutrition comes into play, and conditions and pacing and everything else. So it's really hard to put together a perfect race.
Yeah. If there is such a thing.
I might have one perfect race, one or two in my entire career. That might be it. So yeah.
So as Nick said, he's headed to Oceanside. It's April 2nd race, I guess. And
April 2nd. Scott will be joining me.
as Nick's saying, luckily enough, I got the invite. So I'm not sure how much time I'm going to be spending watching Nick, because if you've seen the start list here,
Yes.
this is World Championship caliber start list for men's and ladies. Sam Long, Lionel Sanders, Eric Lagerstrom's is making his return. Paula Finley just coming off of an injury from running. She's making her season debut. Alistair Brownlee's making it's going to be pretty exciting to watch. So we'll definitely follow up with another race report here. We hope to have it sooner than 2 weeks after the race here. But
Absolutely.
yeah, and we'll get into more letting everybody know what our nice tryhards team is based in Kingston, and we'll get talking more about that, and we'll get to meet some more of our other members, because we've got some pretty accomplished athletes here in the Kingston area that are on this team. So
100%.
Stay tuned, folks.
Stay tuned. That was great.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I just got thinking, hopefully there's enough storage. No, it did.